Hello my ghouls and goblins, Taylor here, your casual crypt keeper, and welcome on back. Today we're going to be spending some time in the crypts that I keep. I hope you brought a shovel, maybe a pickaxe, because we are going digging, putting on our archaeologist hat as we go exploring the top 5 scary tombs that uncovered horrifying things. Let me know down below which one of these freaked you out the most. Well, let's get right into it. Number 5, the vampire graves. What's the number one thing you would prefer not to find inside an ancient tomb? That's actually a very open-ended question. I would say probably the living dead, right? You know, they're not supposed to be there. If that's what you said, not only are you just a little bit twisted in a way I like, but you've also got quite a lot in common with the people who came before us. It seems vampirism used to be a much bigger problem. Archaeologists in 2017 made a troublesome discovery when they discovered a gravesite in Drosko, Poland that was host to a vampire mass burial. No, not a bunch of coffins stacked on top of each other, although that would also be pretty unnerving. No, these were skeletal remains that were found buried with sickles embedded inches away from their necks or rocks lodged deep in their jaws. Talk about a jawbreaker. This process might not make a whole ton of sense to us, it's definitely different burial customs than we're used to, was done so that when the interred decide to wake up in the middle of the long sleep and resurrect ready to walk, the sickles or rocks would keep them in place and prevent any would-be vampires from getting up and taking over the town. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not saying we should do this to modern burials, but it probably wouldn't hurt just like a little bit, right? You know? Person who buries people with sickles around their necks is a fool every night but one. This might not be a bad idea. Researchers analyzed fragments from the Drosko cemetery, where the vampire masquerade was uncovered, learning some interesting tidbits. The vampire's DNA all suggested that they were locals and that their bodies had been lain to rest peacefully, meaning there was no signs of a violent struggle or altercation of any kind. Of course not, you can't fight a vampire. This led the researchers to suspect that these people had fallen ill to cholera, and their symptoms had locals convinced that they might have been creatures of the night. I won't do that ever again for you, don't worry. Now we think of Dracula as sort of the king of vampires, or Edward Cullen if you will, and that vampire stories kind of come from Dracula. And while it's true that Bram Stoker codified and popularized what a vampire is, there have been stories of vampiric revenants since the 11th century in one way or another. Nice to know our ancestors were just as obsessed with vampires as we are. And if you're looking for more stories about vampires, or really any creepy crawly cryptid running around out there, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then some. Hit that little subscribe button, make sure you hit that bell, and click on through on our amazing catalog. If it's something freaky, we got 2 or 3 videos on it. But do all that at the end of this video, okay? I got 4 more scary tombs coming for you right now. Number 4, Tlalpan, Old Mexico. Once you make a career of digging up bones out of the dirt, I imagine it's kind of hard to shock you, you know? You see one scary, weird bone, you kind of seen them all. The National Institute of Anthropology and History has seen a lot of weirdness in the days since their inception. But it was this find that they uncovered recently in Tlalpan, Mexico that had even the most stone-faced gravedigger questioning reality. You see, beneath the Pontifical University of Mexico, researchers on a dig site uncovered 10 human skeletons. Oh, that's not that weird. Where it gets weird, they were all locked together in a spiral shape that appeared to be all interlocked together as if someone's arranged their bones to be like that. What on earth happened here? This 2,400-year-old grave has puzzled researchers and stumped archaeologists who really aren't quite sure what they're looking at, and I don't blame them at all. This sounds like the world's single worst jigsaw puzzle ever. Clay pots and bowls appear to have been placed beside them, and ceramic spheres and stones were placed into the skeleton's hands, adding extra pieces to an already complicated puzzle that is missing a lot of pieces. The archaeologists really are kind of playing out of ideas on this one. They haven't been able to decipher if these people were laid to rest from natural causes or if they were all killed en masse as part of a sacrifice or offering. They believe that what they've found could be some twisted interpretation of life, kind of like a very avant-garde art project using some questionable materials, because all the bones they found appear to range from a fairly consistent different age range, ranging from young to very, very old, so it seems as if someone's made a little life cycle and buried it there. Signs of intentional skull deformation were observed on 2 of the skulls, as well as some notable tooth injuries that looked intentional, not just like a chipped tooth or anything. Coming up next in our list of scary ancient tombs is the Chavin De Huantar. What secrets lie beneath the tombs above? Well, that's what we're aiming to find out with this whole video. That's been the whole purpose of this whole thing. The only trouble is it isn't always so easy for humans to dig around the annals of archaeological dig sites. For one thing, things get pretty rickety around there. You make one wrong move, the whole foundation collapses, and we can only get where we can reach. And that's why sometimes we need a little help wherever we can get, sometimes from some unusual sources. The Chavin De Huantar is a temple located deep in Peru, thought to be over 3,000 years old. Chavin De Huantar is renowned for its impressive architectural features, intricate stone carvings, and religious significance. The site consists of a complex of structures built around a central plaza, including temples, plazas, galleries, and underground passageways, and I think a water park they have installed kind of recently. The buildings are constructed using stone blocks and are decorated with elaborate carvings depicting mythical creatures and deities. Well, American and Peruvian archaeologists were digging beneath this temple, trying to uncover all the secrets it was holding. And in order to truly explore the depths, they brought in a series of rovers to dig for them, and they uncovered a massive series of connected tunnels, 35 in all, spanning thousands of feet, a complicated network running underneath the tunnels. Inside, they found what looked like evidence of a gallery of sorts, ceramic fragments, tools, artwork, offering bowls, and some remnants of a few human skeletons. Wouldn't be a temple without a few human sacrifices, right? Researchers believe this was a gallery, referring it to as the Gallery of the Offerings. Could there have been a darker purpose, though, behind the constructions of the tunnels deep underneath the Chavin De Huantar? Does the Gallery of the Offerings mean these were human sacrifices being offered up to the gods above? And who knows more? What secrets could be hidden within? We're gonna need even smaller, tiny little robots to dig through it, I think. Number 2. King Tut's grave. Quite possibly one of the most famous tombs of all time, if not the outright most famous. King Tutankhamun's tomb is practically synonymous with the imagery of mummies and sarcophagi, as well as being the bearer of a deadly curse. When British archaeologist Howard Carter and his crew discovered the tomb in 1922, they thought they'd made the discovery of a lifetime. Unfortunately, triumphant pride often precipitates a dizzying fall, and soon after, Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy baron who funded the expedition, would pass quickly and unexpectedly from a mosquito bite that he received in the tomb. In the years that follow, a surprising amount of people involved in the expedition all fell into inexplicable sickness or bad fortune. Some died in particularly mysterious circumstances, such as accidents or deaths that seemed like they had been smothered, or sudden comings on, a rapid onset of illness that would take them over. Speculation swirled that this was the result of disturbing the eternal slumber of Tutankhamun, the legendary pharaoh who ascended the throne at a very young age. Because he was a pharaoh, it was believed that his tomb was protected by divine blessings, and this curse was punishment for breaking through those seals. However, this is a pretty oft-repeated historical fun fact. You see it all the time in books and YouTube videos, but there's no evidence to suggest that there was any threat of a curse inside the temple properly. It's attributed all the time that there was an inscription on the sarcophagus or the walls of the tombs bemoaning a curse for disturbing the slumber of the pharaoh. But these things seem to have been added as the story gets told and retold as extra dramatic details to make a bunch of mysterious but probably unconnected deaths seem like they were the result of an ancient curse. It could just easily have been as likely that the curse was breathing in 1,000-year-old dust and being bit by infected mosquitoes before modern medicine. But you have to admit, it is definitely just a little suspicious. Coming up last on our list of strange tomb finds is going to be the Aztec skull rack. If you and your buddies needed a name for your hardcore band, that name is totally up for grabs, just saying, and I will be there moshing at your first show. The Aztec people were known for their agriculture, their art, their funny calendars, and also their propensity and love of a good human sacrifice. To be fair, can you blame them? You know, there's certain cultural differences and sensitivities at work here. Sure, to us, it might seem a bit barbaric to kick a severed head like a football, but to them that's Sunday night, baby. So the Aztecs liked to sacrifice a man or two. But what came of all those bones that were sacrificed? Well, outside the Templo Manor in the Aztec city of Tenochtitlan, researchers discovered an enormous zampantli, or in more casual terms, a skull rack. Flanking the skull rack was two giant towers made up of a substance you could probably guess: human skulls. Researchers suspected that there were thousands of skulls in these walls, maybe more, letting you know just exactly how how many people were sacrificed and offered up to the gods. You ever see like the inside of a lamp that you haven't checked in on a while and it's got a bunch of dead flies in it and you wonder how many are in it? This is like that, but for skulls, and it was part of a wall. The skulls likely belonged to enemy warriors and those deemed sacrificial, which is something my boss called me last week. Archaeologists theorize that once the skulls started to deteriorate on the rack and lose some of their flavor, they would get moved to the towers. When the Spanish first discovered the city of Tenochtitlan, they wrote about how horrifying they found the towers, and it's hard to blame them. I'm describing them to you now, and they sound horrifying. Imagine seeing them up close and personal, but I'm not gonna lie, it would be kind of metal though, just a little bit. And that's about all she wrote for this one, my ghouls and goblins. Thanks so much for watching. Keep on creeping on, and let's uncover you in the next one.